Trucker Dump for July 17th, 2010, episode 47, Perspective on Sucky Things.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Howdy folks, Todd McCann here. When you're an over-the-road trucker, it's easy to get into a funk. You may not have seen the family for weeks on end. Maybe your loads haven't been as good as they have been. Maybe your truck keeps having mechanical problems. Or maybe you're just feeling sorry for yourself because your life hasn't turned out as planned. That's when it's time to get some perspective on sucky things. Anyone following me on Twitter knows that I'm switching trucking companies. For those of you not following me on Twitter, well, I just don't know how you can sleep at night. As of now, I've quit one job and orientation for the new job starts on Monday. The ride over to the hotel has given me some perspective. With the luck I've been having with my former company, I was shocked when the terminal manager allowed me to use the company van to get here. And she did this after I handed her my keys, so there's no doubt she did so knowing that I no longer work for the company. Some of the drivers in the driver's lounge said that it's now a company's responsibility to get a driver home after they quit, but I never heard of any such obligation. If this is true and you're certain of it, please get a hold of me so I can tell everybody about this. Contact information's at the end of this podcast. Back to the story. I got lucky that I caught another driver pulling out in the van and he agreed to drive me to the hotel. His wife was following him in a rental car, so when I asked about it, he offered to tell me what he referred to as the saga. Since you listeners know the way I tell long-winded stories, it won't be hard for you to imagine that I like this guy immediately. Especially since he asked if I mind hearing it before he began the tale. That's more choices than I give you poor folks. His story began before we even got out of the parking lot, and it continued all the way to Hertz. After his wife and co-driver had checked the car in, she got into the van, listened for 2 seconds, and broke in with an exasperated, "Oh my God, are you telling this story again?" Thinking that this woman reminded me of the evil overlord, I sat back and subdued a snicker as they playfully bickered about how many times he had told it. She soon gave in to the inevitable and waved him back into his story. I couldn't see her face, but knowing the evil overlord, I imagine there was some major eye-rolling going on up there. The saga finished just as I pulled into the hotel parking lot 45 minutes later. As these two were brand new truckers, I had listened with interest to the entire story, complete with her popping in to correct him every now and then. Being the thoughtful person that I am, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. His training went perfect. He got an excellent trainer who taught him well. Her trainer was a black man who constantly ranted about the white man's oppression. Sorry, but I have to say this. It's 2010, and there's a black man in the White House. Enough already. That diesel lady would be so proud of me. There's a link to her Twitter page in the show notes. Back to Mr. Racist. He drove on her logbook, which for you non-truckers means that he showed her driving, but did a lot of it himself. He didn't help her learn to back the truck. He allowed her to take 5 whole showers in 4 weeks of training. This guy spent the entire training period using her as a tool to make big bucks instead of taking it slow at first and teaching her the ropes. She admitted that she didn't learn a thing. This whole bad trainer thing bugs the crap out of me. I won't go there right now because my next blog will cover that and more. A lady named Becca left a comment asking for some advice for people who are thinking of becoming truckers. Stay tuned for that by the end of the weekend. Onward. After both of their training was over, they had to take a rental car from Ohio to the Chicago area to pick up their truck. When he told me that they were supposed to pick it up from an international shop, I knew what was coming, and so do you truckers. But first, the truck wasn't even there. Someone had picked it up and taken it to the company yard. After tracking it down, he hopped in it and turned the key, which produced nothing but a string of curses. Back into the shop for a new starter, and it started right up. Ready to roll? Hang on. Now they were informed that they couldn't take the truck because it was missing 2 marker lights. Wasn't it just at the international dealer? Were they fresh out of lights? Well, it seems that the lights were being overnighted from another company terminal instead. 2 days later, the lights still aren't there. These are lights, people. You can get them almost anywhere. Ugh. In the meantime, he's talked to his trainer on the phone. The trainer's come through there and takes the initiative to stop into an international dealer and pick up some lights. Yes, I'm confused too. What is it with these stinking lights? Are they coated with caramel or something? So anyway, now they're underway, right? Nope. Their very first load with their very first company gets double booked. Ugh. That's when two drivers show up to pick up the same load. So they sit frustrated until the following morning. Finally, they get a load to South Texas. They haul butt and they get there early. They turn off the truck to take a shower, and yes, of course, the truck won't restart. Now they sit for 7 hours and no one will respond to their satellite messages or phone calls. Finally, one of their messages gets a response. Messages that say stuff about quitting tend to do that. One of the higher-ups calls them, listens intently, and shoots off a couple of emails. Then a couple of hours, they're back in a rental car heading to the Dallas yard to pick up a brand spanking new truck. The same model that I've had in the shop twice in the last 3 weeks. I pray that I just had a lemon. And that's when they meet me. I mentioned earlier that this van ride put some stuff into perspective. It's not just this story, but also the time that I've had to think. Yes, pass the Excedrin, please. So what exactly is my insight on this situation? Well, sometimes stuff just sucks. How's that for deep and profound? We all go through bad patches. Some last longer than others. Hopefully leaving my old team-oriented company will put an end to my hellish marathon. The fact is, if a company is team-oriented, it's a good chance that it's going to suck for a solo driver. Likewise for a team at a solo-oriented company. This isn't always true, but I think it's a darn tootin' good rule of thumb. This new husband-wife team knew that I had just quit. Yet when they asked me what I thought of their decision to work for the company, I told them I thought they made the right choice. Sure, at times the evil overlord and I have been madder than a couple of cats in a bathtub. I told them as much. Still, I told them that the company was one of the best for teams. So how bad could it have been for the evil overlord and me? Sure, the miles weren't as plentiful as they were in years past. Maybe that was because the economy sucked harder than the national hickey-giving champion. Yes, there were times when I was frustrated because I couldn't get a response to a question, and when I finally did, it was wrong. Perhaps that was because this company chose to lay off office personnel instead of drivers when the hickey started flying. When my truck broke down in San Antonio, did they give me a nice hotel room? Yep. When it broke down 3 weeks later for the exact same transmission problem, did they allow me to leave the truck at the shop and go home so the nephews could spend 4 days pile driving me and trying to hit me in the junk? Yep. Kind of pissed at him for that one, actually. When I realized I had accidentally signed up for the more expensive insurance plan after the evil overlord quit, did they let me change it and reimburse the overcharge? Yeah. Did they totally screw up my paycheck and leave me without any money this week when I really needed it? Yes. Did they fix the problem and make an emergency electronic deposit into my bank account? Yep. Sure, it's not going to help much right now, but they could have made me tough it out until next Friday. Did they save me $60 by letting me use the company van, even after I'd quit? Yep. Have I been whining about my company for the last month? Yes. Have I had a job? Yes. Did I manage to go from one job straight into another? Yes. Are there good people out there who have been without income for many weeks or even months? Yeah. Should I stop crying like a little girl and appreciate what I've got? Maybe?
You know the day is calling tonight.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Alright, now it's time for some feedback on the episode called The Tale of Three Slobs. I had a feeling I was going to get some good ones on this one. I'll see what you think about it. Helmet or Heels wrote in and said, "Oh my, that was a post. I can see why you want out a truck, and bathrooms in most brick and mortar business buildings are clean. Here's to you getting a degree and a job out of the truck." Well, Helmet or Heels, amen to that. Although it looks like my college ambitions may have to be put on hold for a bit. Gotta get the evil overlord started first. Then we'll see from there. And by the way, the evil overlord says that the women's restrooms are just as bad. She says that the toilet seats are so nasty that many women choose to hover rather than sit. Yuck. Heidi wrote in and say, "Wow, I have so many issues swirling in my mind right now. Not sure where to direct my comment." Well, Heidi, always glad to help with mental pictures, especially the kind that gets stuck there. Kevin McCaig wrote in and said, "I hear you, buddy. I once lost it and started yelling at a guy for relieving himself in the truck stop parking lot. I know I shouldn't argue with strangers, but as I pointed out to this guy, it was during the light of day and he could clearly be seen by families in the gasoline side of the station. I also pointed out that he was no more than 20 yards away from an actual restroom inside the building. I might have also insinuated that his large girth could benefit from the walk. What can I say? Sometimes I suffer the fools better than other times." I hear you there, Kevin. If I were king of the world, or at least in charge of new building codes, this is what I would do to help alleviate at least one of our problems described above. Make all bathroom doors open out, so we don't have to touch the door handles that was just grabbed by the slob who did his business and didn't wash his hands afterwards. Of course, that doesn't help with the coffee pot handles and the cooler door handles within the rest of the store. I keep hand sanitizer on me for that. Call me a germaphobe, I don't care, but some of the stuff out there gives me the heebie-jeebies. Well, Kevin, thanks for sharing that. We all lose our cool sometimes, and that guy certainly had it coming. Even Jesus lost his cool in the temple. Nothing wrong with some good old righteous anger. I had the other kind of anger just the other day when this moron decided he needed to go 45 mile an hour through the entire 30-mile construction zone that was marked 60 mile an hour. You're right, though. There's no escaping from the germs left by the slobs. Heck, I wouldn't blame you for wearing surgical gloves and a gas mask. And finally, FL Trucker Wife wrote in and said, "Amen and amen. I couldn't agree with you more on this. While I'm not a trucker and out and about in the bathrooms, my husband is, and let me tell you, I've heard it all. My husband feels like the odd man out since he actually cares about being clean and as sanitary as possible. His co-driver, on the other hand, couldn't be farther from it." Well, FL Trucker Wife, I gotta tell you that those kind of guys are actually in the minority. Most of us are like your hubby. We want to be clean and decent. We don't want to smell like a BO factory. But anyway, I see your point, and I smell them all the time too. She goes on to say, maybe they think some woman will come and clean up their mess like they do at home. Who knows? And to that, I have to say, apparently these guys aren't married to the evil overlord. And then she goes on to say, oh boy, oh, and women carry on those conversations in the bathroom so no one will hear us when we pass gas. You know, 'cause women don't fart. Well, FL Trucker Wife, I don't really know what to say about that. I guess that'll teach me to be careful as to what questions I ask. All right, if you want to leave a comment on this podcast or any other one, I'm about to give you the information. Cue that music. Okay, guys and gals, we all get in a funk sometimes. How often does it happen to you? How do you eventually pull out of it? Tell us how you manage to stay upbeat and perky, and extremely annoying, by typing sucky things into the search bar at abouttruckdriving.com and leaving a comment. I can also be reached through email at truckerdump@gmail.com. Or if you're capable of expressing yourself in 140 characters or less, give me a follow on Twitter and shoot me a message. I'm Todd McCann over there. That's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. iTunes reviews are always more than welcome too. Thanks for listening. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way.